Okay, so hello everyone. Good morning. I'm going to be going back and forth. I see that we have some of you here with us. Oh, good. Jill says, I found it.
Yay, Jill. We were trying to get you in. That was the housekeeping.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Donna. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Noli. So, it is such a pleasure, an honor, a joy, really, to be able to introduce you to this beautiful lady with me. This is Alexis. I will let you introduce yourself in a moment. I want to share with you all how this came about. So I am working, this is like a long story. It's like the interwebs, right? How everything is connected. So I'm working with this lovely individual named Jessica. I'm sure you'll all meet her sooner than later. She introduced me to one person, and then I was on that person's page, and you'll meet her too, I'm sure. And then I was on that person's page and saw this beautiful, heartfelt, sincere, I'm getting chills as I think about it, message from Alexis. And I got chills. I was like, I need to talk to her. I need, like, this is everything. What is this? Like, I need more of this. I'm seeing too much of this. And the topic was really on spiritual bypassing and why it's so important that we don't do that as light workers, which we're going to focus on. And we'll take your questions. We could dive in. So I contacted Alexis and I said, I got to talk to you. Like, I need to connect with you. People need to hear this. People need to hear you. And so here we are. So, Alexis, if you just want to introduce yourself.
So I'm Alexis Douglas from Ask Alexis, and where Ask Alexis comes from is that all my life, as probably lots of other healers, coaches, light workers, people just always ask me questions, and I have answers. I didn't realize for a long time that that's what made me claircognizant, because I thought everybody was like that. But what I do right now is I'm helping people unpack their beliefs, their feelings, their all of that around systemic oppression, and even having to unpack the ways that that plays out in my own trauma story. Um, and it's an intergenerational thing. And I know that in spiritual communities, we focus on like the present now, but every moment before the now is a part of the now we experience. So there's that. But another thing that I'm passionate about is prison reform, and I work with the Alternatives to Violence Project. They're a national organization where we go into prisons and facilitate 18-hour workshops teaching the skills of communication, affirmation, self-awareness, cooperation, and community. Um, and where we go, the levels of violence in prisons is lower, because you bring the light into the dark, and that's just kind of how it works.
And you know what? She said something so brilliant before this, because I said, here's my goal. And I told her, I just really want to spread this message that we have to hold this space. We have to look at this. And if we are really light workers, we have to lean into really going in to light, right? Like, we have to lean into really going in to dark spaces sometimes. I spent the whole weekend doing that, you guys. And with something not even associated with this work, human rights, anti-racism, but with medical intuitive work. I mean, it's just what we have to do. It's the same, it's not the same, but it's similar in the sense that it's like, I was in a medical intuitive workshop. We're learning, and the teacher said, you got to go to the origin point. Go to the dark. Go find the dark. Go find the dark spot in the illness. You got to go into it in order to clear it. And Alexis said something brilliant. You said, what good is light with light?
Just makes brighter light. I get that you got to go to the light to recharge, but the reason you're a bright light is to illuminate the dark. It just, otherwise, why do we need light? What is its purpose?
Just to feel good, right?
Yes. But now I will say this. I have a much more whole approach to the concept of light. Like, light and love they exist, but there is nothing that doesn't exist that's not of source, including the dark. And so when we turn away from things just because they make us feel uncomfortable, that's not actually healing them. That's just making yourself feel comfortable, which at certain stages in your evolution are necessary. It depends on which consciousness you're unpacking. But we have this awakening, and very few people are born woke and stay woke. So you have this awakening, and people like to feel like everything your body ever went through, or everything, like all of those that consciousness stops at that point. You get exposed to the light, and then you have to unpack all of the stuff. And if you have ever unpacked a subconscious belief, a limiting belief, and all of that, the same thing applies for racism. Right? That's in the human consciousness around the globe. It's not just a problem in the United States, it's around the globe that this ugly, dark sin of consciousness exists. And without doing that subconscious work to eliminate those beliefs, we will end up here again, just like we have ended up here again and again and again. It's just how it works.
And don't you think that this is, oh man, there's so many questions like popping in my mind. I'm like, oh, boom, boom, pop, pop. And by the way, I am, if you guys see me kind of looking around, I'm looking on my phone, I'm looking here, I'm wanting to make sure that I address any questions. So feel welcome to interact. But don't you think, to that point, that, actually, no, I want to go back to a question that popped in my mind when you were talking about it first. I would love to know, because I know for me, you guys, it was really uncomfortable. Like, I am in a journey for the umpteenth time doing Me, My White Supremacy, the book. I love that. But I got to tell you, when the first time that I read Layla's, her blog post on, like, I need to talk to spiritual white entrepreneurs. I don't remember the title exactly. I
don't remember the title, but the point was like, stop bypassing our daily trauma.
And I was like, oh, hi, Lindsay. I was like, I wouldn't do what? I mean, I was so like, oh, I wouldn't do that. That's not me. You know what? This is it. White fragility. It came all out right. I was like, oh my God, no, like this is so, no, she's so mad. Why is this person so mad? I mean, I'm just being vulnerable. This was really my, and
you're not unique in that. It's okay. That's a part of the unpacking.
It's a part of the unpacking. So what I want to say to all of you is I empathize with that. And it's okay if you feel that. And I don't want to shame you if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, how these people, no, this is not a thing. And we have to just go to the light. I'm asking you to look at that, because that's a reaction, right? And I had it. Like, it was like, I wouldn't hurt anybody. What is this lady talking about? This is so, I had that. So, and that is part of why I wanted Alexis to come here to help us understand this, because it's a very loaded topic. Now, one of the things that I was like, oh, in your Facebook Live, which I'll share it. Well, no, I've shared it in this group before, but I can share it again. You said it's that whole thing of acknowledgement. That's what we're really doing. It's acknowledging.
You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. And as soon as there's this common phrase in the New Thought, New Age movement, like what you resist persists. So you spoke to that feeling of, I wouldn't do that, but that's a resistance, right? The fact that you need your identity, your ego needs to reassure yourself and say, I wouldn't, without checking to see if there are ways that you have. Or understand, like, are you listening to understand, or are you listening to make yourself feel good? Because we go on this journey to be an individual expression of divinity in the collective consciousness, right? Like, who we are on the inside gets reflected back in the world, from the world. So if you're seeing racist beliefs, if you're seeing that exist, guess what that means? Somewhere in your consciousness, that is being reflected back to you, and denying that it exists in your consciousness further allows that to happen. Now, that doesn't mean it's not in my consciousness too, right? Like, this is not like just let me blame the other. No, I'm having to, like, before the protest and all that happened, if you're familiar with the way intuition and all that works, I was starting to feel, and this is my own vulnerability, like I must be at the stage of like cultural awareness, because I'm having some problems with some of these things that are going on. And even after the murder of George Floyd, which I made the mistake of watching the video, and I'll say this. I made the mistake as a Black person of watching the video, but white people, I want you to watch the video because it is a different, like, I live it, so I don't need to be reminded of what it is, or have to have those feelings. But when I watched it, and then other things, then there was Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and now we have His name starts with an E. Elijah.
Yeah.
He was the violin player. He so those things are happening, and I had to call a white person that I love to be reminded that I love you. And that's because I was recognizing ugly feelings of hate and all and anger in me. And I knew that that is not who I want to be. But if I were to have denied that in the moment and just suppressed it in or tried to bypass, then I'm not processing or metabolizing that anger. I'm not processing or metabolizing. I'm just tucking it in my subconscious mind, saying I don't want to deal with it. No, I had to do the work of being like, no, I unfortunately, bless her heart, she loves me enough to have been able to have that moment with me and allow me just to be vulnerable and say, I'm having all these hateful feelings and I just got to see your face. And I
Mm,
got to be reminded that it's not all of you. And I got to be reminded that it's not all these things because I'm a human. And while I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, those things are taxing.
yeah.
But if I don't do that work, it'll replicate itself even in my life, right? If I want to stop experiencing oppression, I got to do the work to unpack my oppressed, internalized oppression in my mind. I got to be willing not to code switch. I got to be willing to be my full expression of my authentic self. I got to have my locked hair. It was supposed to be purple, but that was a quarantine dye job debacle.
It looks good to me. It looks purple.
Thank you. It's supposed to be like dark purple, but I dyed of everything but my hair purple. My face under here, like the hairline is purple. I have purple spots on my shoulder. My hands have a purple tint.
It's that purple ray. It's the purple ray. It's the purple. I mean, literally. I don't you think that's what you're drawn to? Is like the purple ray, the knowledge, the knowing. I love
Yes.
that. Actually, it's so because we crave that, and that you just said like I'm a knower, and that's. I mean, that's what it is. You're so guided to like the purple because of the purple ray, the knowing. This is the truth, you guys. I mean, it's my truth at least. And it's that really, if we really listen to spirit, if you really take the time out, all politics aside, there are humans that are hurting. And as light workers, we have to be willing to look at it. We have to be willing
Yes.
to unpack it. You also said something that really, I was like, ooh, I mean, obviously, the name of this group where this is live currently, maybe not for those of you that are watching the recording, but is named the frequency key. And so we are devoted to frequency, raising our frequency in mind, body, home, and with spirit. And you said something about in your video that we do so much work on our vibration. And if we don't work on our internal biases, what is that doing to our vibration? What is that doing to our frequency? You know, I did a post about enlightenment recently and talked about, how that really is knowledge. And it is, if
But
we want to be in the light, we have to know.
but let me tell you what's actually, oh, I got goosebumps. So here's the thing. It doesn't necessarily alter your vibration unless it makes you feel bad. What it does is empower and make those things manifest that much more clear because they have that like less resistance. If you're not doing the work to go check and see, and your vibration, your body vessels all charged up with all this battery juice of manifesting, you're actually making it happen more. And it's not conscious, but our world does not get created in our conscious mind. Only when we bridge the subconscious and conscious mind is where the manifestation happens. So if you're doing that and you haven't unpacked those bias beliefs, you're charging them more. It's not that they're not that they're a lower vibration. So I agree with different things vibrating differently, but it's not necessarily, it's like the higher and lower to me is a judgment.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
an opinion of what is, right? There, I get that there could be speeds to the vibration and there have been scientific tests, but that's just a different form of vibrating. Just like I believe our feelings are our guide for what is good and not good for the collective humanity, not necessarily just for us. If
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it feels bad to murder people because, well, I mean, I don't know from experience, but it feels bad in my mind. It feels bad to murder people because that's not good for human evolution. Now, there are some people who it feels good to, but that population is a lot smaller than the collective that wants to live and evolve.
Mm.
But those people that are the murderers, they're still divine, right? They're just showing us why that would, like, how that would impede on the collective that wants to involve that, like why that feels bad, why it's not good for the human body evolution. So the things that of systemic oppression, which this is not, is it how it happens is like your media images show protagonists looking a certain way, the types of drama that you like to watch, the education that you put in your own mind. All of, like, our school books are whitewashed or they minimize. I saw this post and it talked about changing your language and calling enslaved people hostages and overseers torturers, and a few other things that where you're changing, if you change the language to things that actually make you feel more uh reflective of the truth of that experience, or like the Fugitive Slave Act was keep black people hostage act and allow them to return to their torturous overseers. um call a plantation a concentration camp, because that's what the experience is like, and we have all of these pleasant ways of trying to use that language, which actually disconnects your ability to empathize with the truth and why it's so bad.
Such a huge thing, but this is such a key component of bypassing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's such a key component. And I would remember that this is interactive. So I really want to stress, if you guys have any questions.
I've been checking for questions myself.
Okay, good. Yeah, ask, because this, and I don't want you to feel silly. There's no stupid question. This is a safe space to be vulnerable. I really wanted to provide this for you guys so that you can understand the connection. So please feel welcome to ask something.
And I want to I want to just say this, because I find that I've been working with a lot of people who are unpacking this, who are white, and I will not attack you. I will give you compassionate answers. I do this emotional labor for the sake of my people. I do that, and I understand that there is, I mean, sometimes, don't get it, I mean, there are times in my personal life, like at my church, where I don't have what it takes to do the emotional labor. But I want the world to be a better place, and help you unpack your subconscious mind makes that happen. So I'm not going to attack. I'm not going to shame. I still know the power of all of those things.
Yeah, it's very, safe space. I see Noli's asking one. She said, here's a tough one. Noli, you're so amazing. Martin Luther King Jr. said, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Will we ever arrive in this place, or will this sound like color blindness to you? Are you willing to help me get a clear thought?
So I believe that can be applied as color blindness, but that's not what was meant. What was meant is that I want to get to the place where my race is not something that has a negative connotation to it, so that only the content of people's character is what they're judged by. You can celebrate culture and ethnicities without having that have a superiority or a ranking effect to it. But because of capitalism and its need to thrive, the way that has been done is by pitting races against each other and creating hierarchies of acceptable races and acceptable cultures. The idea is that, yes, we are all human, but we look different for a reason. And why are we not celebrating those differences? Why is it that the protagonist is not always, but for a long period of history has always been white, and there are still way more white examples of protagonists than people of bodies of culture examples? Why is it that people are like, I'm not sure we're ready for this? What makes you not ready for, like, and I said that thinking of like electing a black president. I'm not sure we're ready for a black president. Why not? Why? What makes you say you're not sure the nation is ready? That's something in the subconscious mind. Even yesterday, I was having a talk with a friend who he has been working with people to get them to stop saying all lives matter. And I said to him, like, yeah, I'm glad that you're getting people to stop saying all lives matter, but you know that that's not enough. Like, that you're just asking people to stop being rude. You're not asking people to, because nobody said all lives matter until people said Black lives matter. And so like, you're not, Like, that's not what the problem is. The problem is, why are you defensive enough to say all lives matter? Or why is it? And then here's the thing. And I can't speak for all Black people. And I only mean this in the context of the way that it's framed in this conversation. I would not have a problem with people saying all lives matter if, in fact, that called them to action to make sure that all lives matter, not just defend against Black Lives Matter. Because all lives includes ableism, LGBTQIA people, all kinds of bodies of culture. So if you're not going to do the work to go out there and make sure that all lives matter, even the least of us, and I only say that in context because I get frustrated every time I say the least of us. But if you're not willing to go out there and do the work to make sure all matters, then stop being defensive.
Wow, that's a really powerful point. I'm gonna burp on that one. Usually I burp when things are like big information, and that was a really good point. And Noli's saying, got it. Judgment is placing people in ranking by skin or culture.
Yes. And so to answer Noli's question, I do believe that we can get there to where people, like, the content of character matters more as a determining factor than someone's culture or ethnicity. But that doesn't mean you don't see color. That just means you value what would make somebody qualified or unqualified.
Yeah. Yeah. That I love. Thank you, because that gives me it gives me more learning and knowledge. And that's what this is all about. It's learning and unlearning. Jill's asking a great question that I had on my notes to ask you as well, which, because there's a lot of us that want to make a difference. For some, it is out of our comfort zone, to do certain things. Like, I came on here and did a share not too long ago, and people were like, well, Gina, I'm just not comfortable to speak out because I was talking about silencing. And I even had a girlfriend that said, that silence is violence. It's just, I get triggered by it because I just am not comfortable. I don't know what to say. And I told her, well, silence, just have the conversation with yourself, have the conversation with your family. Silence is violence, meaning, it's like saying nothing and doing absolutely nothing. That is where it could be. But even by turning inward, and I'm kind of like going off on a tangent there, but Jill's asking, and I'm going to add to this because she said, what is the best way to make a difference? I've been learning and starting conversation, but what else can I do? And I even want to ask you your input on sort of like, because I'm seeing a lot of optical allyship. And so to really make the differentiator here so that we all know, because there are people that want to make a difference. And there are people, I think learning is the biggest thing that you could do. I mean, that's, starting with history. But what's your answer to this, Alexis?
The biggest thing you could do, I have two answers. I agree with unpacking your own subconscious beliefs, but also helping to create economic equity in the Black community. Without economic equity, so if you think, I am a conditions changer because I recognize that changing the conditions. So if we exist on this planet with people who are not awake to their ability to manifest their lives, the reality is that there are less people aware of their divinity than there are who are not aware. But that doesn't mean they don't have it and they're not manifesting. So doing things to help affect the conditions that people who are in abject poverty have to manifest from would help bridge that gap. The economic wealth gap, that means, so Black families make 6% of what white families make. And holding back the ability to create generational wealth, unless you're just going to disrupt the whole capitalistic system, which that is going to take time, but figuring out ways to add into your business model economic equity. I have a person who I'm working with who has decided that since she doesn't have to worry about money, meaning if she never worked again in her life, she's going to be fine. That when in our work, I get a bigger percentage. This was her offer, not mine. But I get a bigger percentage because it's about creating, like, bridging that gap, creating economic equity. Yes, I want all your love and all your compassion, but I've learned to survive without it. What my community needs is wealth, the ability to build generational wealth. I have an idea that I'm working through where people who don't have people who don't have someone to leave their money to or leave their home to, or their children are like doing super well and all that, it will go into this like you can leave it to this program. It's just an idea that's I'm gelling, but you could leave it there in order to be able to help other people create generational wealth, helping Black and brown families have a path to home ownership, which is the biggest thing for generational wealth. These are things that actually help the consciousness get out of survival mode. And once you get above that needing your body to survive level, that's when the creativity can happen. That's when your energy and your consciousness can be used to awakening. But the spirit got to use all the energy to keeping the body alive if it's stuck in poverty.
This is like moving me a lot right now. Yeah, and I don't want to be like fragile here.
Having emotions is how those emotions get used, or what happens in that situation. That is, I'm not of the idea that you can't have your tears or you can't feel. I want you to feel those things. It's then if you expect me to comfort you, or if it takes like if you want to stop the conversation because you're feeling emotional or something like that. But you're a human. I do not expect you not to have emotions.
Yeah, no, that just really, it was hard, expansive, especially for somebody that, I don't have kids. I have nieces and I have stepkids, but I don't have biological children. So it's inspiring. Andrew's saying, I love that idea. I do too. And Lisa does too. And it is really important. We forget, like, energy, money is energy. There's this, a lot of you know that my favorite book is Creating Money, Attracting Abundance. It's the basis of energy. It
represents your internal security. The more money you have, the more secure you feel with your safety and your well-being in the world. And I don't agree that identity should be attached to money, but money is a thing that is right now. That you can't change what you don't acknowledge, right? And money does represent those things. Whew.
I know, chills. Art expansion. I'm like, oh, and I do, because Lisa's also saying, where do I start? I really want to be supportive at the same time. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I totally get you. I really do believe, you guys, and I'm reading it for the umpteenth time. I'm taking a youth group through it. I really do believe Me and My White Supremacy. It's like so important.
I like Me and My White Supremacy, but I prefer, for spiritual people, a book called My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa. Hold on, it starts with an M.
Yes. Twick Lynn. Twick Lynn, if you're here watching this, you recommended this to me. I just got it. This is so good. It's after I just got it. We could do a book club.
Resmaa Menakem. And the reason I prefer that book is because it talks about the ways that trauma gets stored in the body. And I'm a fan of epigenetics. And so your epigenome gets passed down, as they've discovered, for up to 14 generations. But in my spiritual beliefs, we are who we are, standing on the shoulders of who came before us. And so what that means is, let me try to make it easy. Your epigenome, if you have a genome, which is how you express, that's your DNA, like the way that it's arranged, then your epigenome, that would be like the hardware of your computer. The epigenome is the software that tells the hardware what to do so you can have this performance. So for example, my grandfather, in order to have his business, he was a contractor. In order to be able to get bids, he had to have a white person bid on contracts for him and split his profits. But then he went to prison for that for 14 months. So like then what that does in my mother's trauma story is that men can be absent for long periods of time. And my grandfather also had he had some confidence thing, like, oh, the rules are meant for everybody but me. So then the type of men that she picks are men who say those things, not realizing the context in which it happens. So then when I don't see examples of healthy, lasting relationships, now I don't have healthy, lasting relationships until I do the work to unpack my beliefs around that. That's just one trauma that got passed down from generation to generation. So in the book, My Grandmother's Hands, there are exercises to help metabolize that trauma. They talk about seeing torturous acts and murderous acts, seeing, like, if you have ancestors that were visually present for enslavement or participated in it, that's trauma that's stored in your epigenome. And until you do the work to metabolize that, that's how those knee-jerk reactions happen. That's where it's like, when you say, why did you shoot him? I don't know. Because in that moment of the present now, where everything is outside of your body, the instructions that are there is black is bad. It's a villain.
That's so
So
well said. Okay, this is great to know. And yeah, book club. I'm like, book club, because Twick Lynn, she's a part of this community. She just recommended this book to me, and I got it. I'm finishing up the Me and My White Supremacy journey. But
I wanted to say one thing for your. I heard, who was it that asked, like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, and I don't want to
oh
get it.
yes, Lisa, I had that too. And you know what? I've said so many wrong things. It's
That's what I wanted to say. Perfectionism is not a part of, I mean, it's a part of the journey, but it's also a part we unpack. That means that there's a judgment that's happening. We're here to do these things and be examples of the lived experience. If you say something wrong and somebody tells you, find out that it's wrong, why, see what's happening, and then come back with that truth. It is a process. Like, you don't, I know it's hard and it's uncomfortable to be called out, or it's uncomfortable to have offended someone. But in any other instance, if you offend someone as a light worker, you would apologize, or you would acknowledge that my intention and my impact were different.
yeah. And that's, you know what it reminds me of, when Marianne Williamson said, if you're not pissing somebody off, you're not yet doing the right thing. I mean, kind of, that's basically what she said. And I got to tell you, like, you guys know how vocal I have been about this message lately. I have lost a lot of people. I've lost clients, and I don't care. I just don't, because it's a human rights issue. It's, we are human. I'm getting chills in my left. Like, and I just don't care anymore. Like, this is not about people liking us. We have to be willing to mess up. Noli's saying, I loved that idea. I watched where my feelings were touched. So I went to the bail bond issue first. Then I sent some cash over to the Marian School, where girls, yes. For anybody watching this, if you're in St. Louis, the Marian School, I love a dear lady there who sort of runs it. Her name is Mary Elizabeth. I could put you in touch. And they have a mentorship program where you go in and you talk to the young girls and you inspire them. Actually, there was just one at my house. This is so weird that this is coming up. Anyway, if you want to get in touch, like, Noli, you would be amazing at going and maybe talking about dreams, but you can go and speak within their programming.
If you could give somebody the power to dream, I didn't learn to dream till I was in my 30s. I just knew I had to get a job. The only thing I dreamed about was a stable family. And that has to do with the other parts of my trauma story. But so then my ability to dream or celebrate small things, I'm about to get emotional, is like, I don't have that same skill set. I have ideas and I get super pumped about my ideas because I'm an analytical thinker. But just giving somebody the ability to dream, I'm not sure what I'm feeling, but please do.
Okay, so I have to gift you a session with Noli, because she actually does dreams.
I don't understand.
Like, she helps you to unpack your dream world, like your nighttime dreams.
Oh, well, no, I have those strong.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that you won't put me. I'm not opposed to that session. That's not resistance, but I'm talking about believing in yourself enough to dream that you could have impact or create something other than security for your body.
Totally. But it's so interlinked, is what she's taught me. And I know that's not why we're here, but it's so synchronistic, because her and I are doing a session in the mentorship group later. We'll talk about this offline. But she helps you to get, like, she takes the information, or helps you to take the information from your dream time to move into your dream. It's really quite lovely. Okay, I digress. Sorry, I got really excited there.
That's all right. You allow me to tuck some of my emotion back in.
I always say the tears of the angels, it's like the car wash. Cindy's saying, and I love this question, and I don't think it is, but let's see what Alexis says. She says, I feel there's a path to change through children and making an impact with all children. Is that too simplistic?
So yes, the only thing is, I mean, I'm sorry. Yes, there is a path with children, but everybody needs to work. Everybody, like, every generation needs to work. And then, because if you only work with the children, they have parents, and our parents are our biggest influencers. And so if their parents aren't being worked with to unpack their subconscious mind, then that child isn't getting the full experience, getting the full breakthrough. if you feel called to work with children and to help them with racism work, raise them to be anti-racist, influence their consciousness to know that racism is wrong and to be willing to stand out against it and not just be like, I'm not judging anyone when I say this, but I'm paralyzed with fear, so I say nothing.
Mm.
Because that is so denial is racism's biggest feeder. People denying that it's there or turning away from. The thing that I like to point out, and this is not going to make people feel good, but a lot of people who are becoming aware now because of the way that people have been made uncomfortable with it in their face, is like, now you can't turn away from it, right? Even if you're turning away from it, you're turning away using defiance and all these other things to feed your denial. But you had to be made uncomfortable first in order to become aware. But here's the thing. And maybe so far in my existence, I have not met a white person who has not encountered a racist white person. Whether it be in your family, your friend circle, somebody making an off-color joke, somebody's cousin's uncle, whatever it is, every white person I've encountered knows or has encountered another racist white person. I'm sorry, not another, a racist white person. So I didn't mean to say but that means that it is just as prevalent in your life as it is in mine.
And it's frequency. Let's not forget about frequency. So I don't care. I mean, the epigenetics, the way that it all plays. We could be in a grocery store and walking by somebody that, let's say, has that thought, and it sparks that frequency in you. I mean, it really, and that's how the law of vibration works. So we're all interconnected in that way. And as you're talking, I'm even thinking, to be quite honest, one of my biggest challenges right now is like white children and helping and guiding them to understand this is an issue, and there's a lot of these white kiddos that, they're sort of like, there's all that QAnon talk and the conspiracy theories. And, well, if you're doing anti-racist work, it's really just because you're racist. And it's like, no.
I don't know QAnon talk to know about that, but that just sounded crazy to me.
It's really crazy. It's like the thought is, if you're, it's like associated with the whole political campaign that's going on. Like, if you are basically, if you're triggered and really working towards anti-racism, it's because racism exists within you. And so there's people that are spreading the message like, I'm not racist. You're the one that's racist. You're the one that has the problem to deal with. Like, I am not. It's like that sort of thing. It's this reflection.
That's gaslighting.
Totally gaslighting. Totally white fragility. Totally gaslighting. But there's a lot of kiddos that are adopted. I just had a conversation with a local mom, saying, like, she's like, I'm so nervous that my child is talking this way. So Cindy, I just think, like, I'm just sharing, but being transparent out of my own life. And I'm loving that, like, my stepdaughter is going through some work with me right now, learning for herself. It's not just, it's not just like the children, like Black children and children of color. It's the white children too. We can't forget. And maybe even Cindy, that's what you meant. I don't know. But we have to address, because they're learning and unlearning, and they think that it's not an issue. And then they're going around saying, it's like, no, this is an issue and we have to look at it.
And just adolescence is a time where you're not as sensitive to the impact of your behavior on others. So if you're adopting those beliefs in your adolescence, chances are you're going to do some hella problematic shit. Excuse me, I don't know if your audience is okay, but you're going to do a lot of problematic things, and be harmful and hateful, right? So, like, the way that I like to explain it is, so I follow what they're saying. If you're doing anti-racist work, then that means that racism lives in you. Yes, but also if you're denying that racism exists, then that means racism lives in you. And the work is getting the racism out of you, but where's your compassion? If I were hurting about another human rights issue, if I were hurting because I had been raped, you would not be like, oh, well, that's just because the rapist lived in you. If I were telling you a story about how I was physically abused as a child, you wouldn't be like, oh, well, something in you, like, what'd you do to make him pissed off?
Right.
So like denying my trauma, and every time in every system that they look for racism, it's there. Every single time they look, it's there. So you don't have to like, so what I find that people who do that just have a feeling that it's not true.
Well, and don't you think Cinda just said something earlier too? She said if you have to actually take a stance and say that you're not racist,
It's kind of not your decision to make, right?
more power to you, you know. And it's like, yeah, it's loaded because then it's like, is our time better spent speaking to those people? Maybe if they're open, but really they a lot of times those types of people just want to have the argument. So it's, I like what you're saying about really putting your money where your mouth is and learning and unlearning. Oh, good, Cindy. I'm glad that helps. I really loved this vulnerable question from Noli too, and then Kim, will get to your question. Noli saying, I'm nervous about attending a former student's college grad party. She is Black and I admire her so much, but I don't want to intrude. I'm feeling guilty, white and ugly to her folks. I know she invited me, but am I being fragile?
Yes. But that doesn't, both can be true. Like you can go and be uncomfortable. And I invite you to actually do it because you do have the ability and I'm going to say this, to escape whenever you would like. Like you can go, show your face, give your warm wishes, and leave.
And it might be uncomfortable, right?
And it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's any awkward moment. If you were to go to a room and you were the only woman and it was all men, you'd be uncomfortable. If you were to go to, like say you go to, I can't think of something, but wherever you're the only, it's awkward. Wherever you think you're going to be alone, but that's something too that you could get some empathy from because I've been in many spaces where I'm the only Black person. It is incredibly uncomfortable.
Well, I want to share a story because it's hilarious, but also, Noli, I just want to say, like, the school that you taught at claims to be a very diverse school, and I just don't think that it is. It's a private school, and I just don't think it is. Like, I've been having this conversation a lot with my stepdaughter, and so think about how she felt, being a student at your school. But I have to share this, you guys, because it was really heart opening for me. I had a really dear, dear girlfriend from cruise ships. If any of you are watching this and you remember this time in my life, Dejanay, I love her. And she died way too young of cancer. And I happened to be on a New York layover. I was a flight attendant at the time, happened to be on a New York layover for her funeral. And I just asked my company, I really want to go to her funeral. She means the world to me. And so they let me. I think I was 1 in 4 white people. And this was a huge, like, she was a singer on cruise ship. She sang for the church. It was very soul filled. So much love there. And it was uncomfortable because I was like this, I stuck out like a sore thumb in this. I mean, it was like probably 600 people, I would imagine. It was a huge funeral. And I remember I was waiting for our friend after the funeral, and he was really busy because he was singing in the services. And I was standing outside of the church, and I just remember just like praying and just doing my form of prayer to connect with her, because that's why I was really there, and just standing around. And I think maybe like a couple of people talked to me outside, but I didn't leave. I didn't escape. I was there for her, and I just really connected with that.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Did you feel like people would question your intentions, or would think you stole something, or would feel like you were there being up to no good?
Absolutely not.
So when Black people are in all white spaces, I'll give you an example of, I went to a sound therapy session that I didn't realize they held it in their house, or else I wouldn't have went. But I was there, and it was a sound therapy session, and I'm the only Black person, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I was terrified to ask because I didn't realize it was on the same floor. Once I realized it was actually like adjacent, like you could see the bathroom door, I felt comfortable. But I waited to leave until I was sure other people were leaving so that people could always see me. I didn't put my hands in when I went to look at something, there's no touching. And not that you're supposed to touch, but it's a conscious effort to not touch because, oh my goodness, I'm in these white people's house and they're going to think if something come up missing, I'm the one that stole it. So I don't want to do that. So being the only Black person in a space, is not the same as being the only white person, because you guys don't have it programmed in your consciousness to make sure that white people are comfortable.
Mm.
That is so white comfort is bred into the fabric of society, because when white people get uncomfortable, bodies of culture get murdered. Bodies of culture, and it doesn't mean that that's the full scale. Bodies of culture get excluded. Bodies of culture get lose their access to certain conversations. There is that, like, so please go be with that discomfort so you can kind of desensitize yourself to it. Go there and see if you can raise your frequency while you're there, right? Put your tools that you know work to the test. Not test, but like use them. You know what I'm saying? Exist in them, be them, embody them. Because breaking, there are so many ways that, so like you talked about the student who that she was going to see, and the school is not that diverse. When I work with BIPOC clients who have grown up in pretty much all white environments, or their fawn response to fear is so ingrained in them that they don't know how to be their authentic selves, because that desire to belong means you're belonging with the culture that is oppressing you. How many times do you have to look away from somebody saying, because adolescents can be mean and not fully aware of what they're saying, but like they make an off-color joke and I'm supposed to just laugh it off, or say stuff about my hair because it's not like their hair. I can remember spending the night over my white friend's house, and she wanted to do my hair. We were playing each other's hair because that's what girls do. And she used hair grease. I use hair grease in my hair, but she used way too much. And then she made me sleep with a bag on my head because she didn't want her pillows to get greasy. Now that's innocent behavior,
Totally.
but then
No.
have that, right? But when you have, that means there's telling me something is wrong. Not to mention, it's just a lack of awareness. But then that gets, like, when I take that and I put it on all the other things that I went through,
Right.
I can remember, like, to bring it up to the future. When I worked in corporate America, I had curly hair. My hair is curly naturally, and I didn't have locks, so I would straighten my hair. And I wore my hair curly once, like in a rush, and they were like, "Why don't you wear your hair curly all the time?" And these were my words. I'm in my 20s and not aware. I don't want to be known as that ethnic supervisor because I'm trying to move up. I didn't even connect all the dots in my mind. And my coworker, who was white with curly hair, laughed at me hysterically, and it was like a part of the jokes, right? So there is this idea that I'm making you comfortable without knowing I'm making you comfortable, because if I start unpacking my pain in front of you, then all that defensiveness comes up, all of that stuff. And then now when that defensiveness comes up, people can become hateful and attacking. And so even if they're not physically attacking, they might say things that are verbally more offensive without realizing it. And when you're sitting there trying to beg somebody to care about you and hear your trauma, and they're just constantly gaslighting you, it is demoralizing. It creates negative self-concept. It creates hate. It creates rage. It creates a lot of things. And yes, I'm responsible for how I metabolize that. However, think about the amount of energy I have to spend on not metabolizing these things as hate that lives in me, to be able to know that it's you, not me. Like, that's what energy could I be spending? Like, I could be spending that towards my creativity, towards the impact I want to make in the world, but I have to spend it on my own survival.
Right. And that's a big part of like adding to, I'm even thinking, I love all of these questions, are so good. It's a big part of, Lisa, she said, "Thank you for providing this time to be vulnerable, feeling like this is a safe space to ask possibly really dumb questions." Well, that's what because I've shared with you guys, I hired an anti-racism coach to work on, and I realized the need for this and the importance of it. And so I wanted, to have Alexis come here. I'm even thinking we do this once a month or something, to just really be here. Like, I really care about this. And you're such a source.
That says a lot right there. The one that you want to have it be ongoing conversation, because that means you're fully present. That I'm just saying, I'm grateful for that, because it means you're present, that this is not a one-time unpacking thing. This is not this is changing the subconscious mind is real work.
Yeah, we have to put our time, and we'll talk about that, because I think, and now we more questions, and it's good. We still have a few minutes, so I want to get to as many of these as I can. But let's talk about that, like doing it monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, would you have any? Kim's asking for resources for kids. Do you have resources for kids?
I do not yet. One thing I know that Black Minds Matter is a book that I've heard is really good for understanding what happens to Black kids. But I don't have children. I'm like you. I'm not a mother yet. So I don't. It's just not a world that I fully navigate. I do want to respond to just. I wanted to give that answer. I don't have the resources, but
Okay.
Google might. Um, but I see someone has a question that says, when we're getting a service, we say thank you for your service. And is there something you could say to a Black person to let them to know that you support them? My question is, why do you feel the need to? Like, what about your identity says that you have to let someone know that you support them? Like, what that says to me is you want to make sure that you're known for being the good person that you are, which is something called white centering, in making it about your experience instead of their experience. Um, I would suggest you tip them heavily or tip them more than you would, because that creates economic equity. And then if the conversation comes up, you can, like, if it comes up normally, you can let them know. But if you're just like, hey, I stand with you, sometimes that's just weird.
Yeah. Well, I'll be really transparent. I am paying Alexis for her time. This is not like, we cannot expect for Black people, Black women to educate us for free. We can't have that expectation, or else I get chills on my legs, or else the cycle never gets broken. The trauma never gets unpacked. So we have to be willing to, we have to.
In your education, because that's what it is. It's an education about something you don't know. And if you were to go to college or you take a course or something like that, you have to pay for it. And I do this work because if I don't do it, things won't change. But I appreciate being paid for it instead of just having to beg people to care about me. It's just, that is a thing.
Yeah, I would never, like, that's something, it's important. And again, energy, we get what we pay for, guys. It's like we or not pay for it, but we get out of something we put into it. So we have to put into it, we have to invest in it. If it's not, monetarily, it needs to be energetically, so it's good. Like, that's a really great question. It's
I would
loaded.
like to unpack Nancy's question. If Nancy's willing to give us a little bit more detail about what that situation was. Like, what did the person say that was disrespectful to a coworker? So Nancy's question is, what suggestions do you have in dealing with a colleague who has been disrespectful to a coworker with respect to race? There are so many things that happen in co-working situations that are disrespectful to race. It's hard for me to be able to put it in a box.
Yeah, well, and maybe, Nancy.
And I don't mind staying a little longer if Nancy's still watching, because that question I like it a lot, and I feel like there's a lot of good meat in there.
Yeah, and to stand up and say something. Yeah, so Nancy, if you're still around, if you can comment. And Kim, Alexis's information is above. You can DM her on Facebook. You could email her. And I am going to commit to having, we'll talk after this. I really think that just even having you come back once a month in this space, and let's just commit at least that, just to commit to doing this. And I want to be able to provide a really safe space for this, because this is how the change really happens. And it is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. I mean,
it's uncomfortable for everyone involved. Yeah. Just know that your discomfort is not like, you're not alone in that.
Right. She said a white male coworker was disrespectful to a Black female coworker.
Okay. What kind of disrespect, though? Like, did he touch her hair? Did he assume she had 30 kids? Did he, was he nitpicking her work and like trying to make sure that she verifies every doctor's note or everything? Did he mansplain her? There are so many things that happen.
Can you explain, while we're waiting for her to respond, can you explain mansplaining? Because people might not know what that is.
There's mansplaining and whitesplaining. So like, there is like, so she's saying something that is intelligent, that is on point, and he's like, no, let me say the exact same thing you're saying, because if I say it, people will understand more. So I'm going to say it my way instead of your way.
Oh, he asked her about a recent shooting.
Okay, so I would have a conversation with him, not her. Um, in that, like, and he's going to, well, let me not just project, but there are still things I'm unpacking in my mind as it relates to male thinking. And but I do that work for real. I really do. But male thinking and then white male entitlement, because what I see is that he felt entitled to ask her about something without acknowledging that is traumatic for her. So what I would have a conversation with him about is I would ask him what his intention was, right? Because a lot of times people just do stuff without realizing their intention with it. And so if I mean, I imagine he said something like, "Why do you guys?" I don't know. I don't want to
It was about a shoot. He said, well, you should know about it because you're black. That's what he said. It was about a shooting and said, well, you should know about it because you are black. He asked her about a recent shooting.
Mm.
And she was very offended.
So I would, as she should, I understand that. If you see me rubbing my fingers for comfort, right? I understand that of being offended. I would ask him who he thinks he is to be able to speak on what she should and shouldn't know about. Like I would begin to question him and his motives. And then here's the thing I want to say for my allies and co-conspirators. Working on your own emotional presence and fortitude is a big part of the work, because what's going to happen is all his white fragility and man fragility and all that stuff is going to come up when you start to question his motives, because he's going to realize he was an asshole. And then with that, there's a lack of acknowledgement and accountability that comes along with that fragility. And so he may not be accountable or want to. So you got to be able to stay present to be like, oh, I understand that you're saying that, but what was your intention again? Because that was my question. And then so once you get that, like if you stay present and you got to field off, like just kind of take your mind away for all the dumb shit that's going to be said, then it's kind of like you get somebody to fully be like, I don't know what my intention was. Or does he even care that he offended the person? Like, is he wondering? Because sometimes offensive things happen. And on the flip side, he may have been defensive in that moment, but is he wondering why she was so offended later?
Yeah, and she's adding on to this story, which is like making me angry. So I have to like calm down to I'm like, I gotta calm. I almost want to say too, like this is a big, because then another white male person pipes in. I almost like this is kind of a human resources issue too. Like,
oh, for sure, Aunt Jemima syrup.
Yeah, this is not okay. No.
So let me just say this: I do give corporate trainings, and so if this comes up and you're wherever you work, they do need some sensitivities training.
Mm-hmm.
And saying you like Aunt Jemima syrup is a microaggression. And know this: some people are okay with their racist beliefs, but this is how systemic racism happens, because the individuals are inside the system. And so I should know about it because I'm black shows no concern. So if there's a black shooting, just so you know, your black and brown coworkers, if they do know about it, are not okay. Right. It doesn't but they're not going to let you know that they're not okay. So him saying that and then her saying, oh, I got to be quiet or whatever she did to keep her to be like, because I have to keep my job. That is additional trauma on top of the trauma of seeing another black shooting, another black murder. When people say dumb shit like black on black crime, that only exists to take the attention away from white on black crime. Every race has crime against their own race because crime is a proximity thing. So white people kill white people at the same rate. Black people kill black people, and every other race does like that. You kill who you around, because most crimes are not planned out. Sorry, there's a mosquito. I don't know why I have one in my house. But so then to double down and out of nowhere be like, I like Aunt Jemima syrup. So what do you mean by that? There you go. That's a good question. You could don't be afraid she may not stand up for herself, or she may be the black person may be so triggered that she does stand up, and then she's going to be painted as an angry black person. So, but like you could say, what do you mean by that, Tom, or whatever his name is? Like, what do you mean by that, Chad? Like, what made you think, like, why would you say you like Aunt Jemima syrup? That has nothing to do with the topic at hand. And then whoever asked the question, like, why do you feel like it's okay to ask her about that? Don't you think that she might be more like, she might be hurt, she might be afraid, she might be traumatized? Like, show them their apathy.
And I would say too, just from experience, if you don't feel like you're in a calm place to be able to do it, don't do it yet. Like, wait, like, do some inner work with me, Nancy. I think that you are. Like, I think, but just in general, for people, like, it's like, wait, because if you go into like the battle or the fight right away, you'll lose the moment to be able to actually make a difference. So really,
it is an HR issue, but I will say this: just because a place has HR doesn't mean that HR is, like, a lot of HR human relations departments are for the company, not for the employees. So have more than one person go with you, right? You can go. She can't go to HR, and she's probably not going to, because what happens is, as soon as you go to HR, you've made it uncomfortable for other people, and then you're on your way out the door because you're not a good fit. But you can go and say, I was uncomfortable with what was said, and I really think we need to have some training around it. But also, if you can gather other people with you to say that, then they can't ignore a group of you. It's not like, so they would have to then fire all of you or make all of you uncomfortable. But if you you're able to show that this is bad for the entire work environment or the entire work culture, or as many people that are willing to be with you, because you'll find a lot of people be like, I don't want to be a part of that. Don't be afraid to advocate on behalf of, because you have a voice that can be heard.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so Nancy, I'm going to say, go. I want to give you homework and then update us, because Alexis and I will connect. We will commit to, if you are open to it, doing it once a month here in this space, and do some homework and get back to us. I want to hear how you report back and what you do, like, based on this advice, because if you have a month, if we do this once a month, let's see what happens. Also, I want to share that Mari, I don't know if some of you know Mari, she has created a group that has just grown. It's called Women Against Anti-Racism, so you can go in there.
Their contract can be canceled, Nancy. And that could be that's discipline.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Zero compassion. That's right. So yeah, and then follow up with Alexis. I'll let you know when we're back here doing this again. I really thank you for being here. If you're still watching and still here with us, thank you for watching the Soul Fruit. It's an important thing.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I feel like we got somewhere very important. This was really good work.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to sign off of Facebook. I love you all. If you're watching the replay, you can still ask questions on the replay. And what I'll do is I'll copy those and bring them forward to our next discussion. So thank you all. And thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.
Time, energy, vulnerability, help, education.
Thank you for having me and creating this space for this education to be available.